Since Donald Trump returned to office, his feud with California Governor Gavin Newsom has intensified from social media through the courts. First, it started with Trump launching federal agents, often fully masked and disguised, to lead ICE raids across communities and workplaces in California. Then it escalated when Trump sent the National Guard and Marines into LA to go after protesters. Now, Newsom has stepped directly into Democrats' fight against Trump's gerrymandering gambit. Earlier this week, he warned Trump in a letter to back off the mid-decade redistricting scheme in Texas and other red states. Newsom made it clear, if red states rig the maps, he's ready to redraw California's to strike back. So today, Newsom, like a true internet troll, took directly to social media and started speaking Trump's language. He blasted out the following in Trumpian all caps. When Speaker Little Man Johnson is standing in the unemployment line, he can thank Donald Taco J. Trump. Trump missed a simple deadline, something he has often done with his many failed businesses. Now, California will fire him with new, more beautiful maps. Highly anticipated, historic press conference with your favorite Governor Gavin Christopher Newsom. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Javier Becerra is the former California Attorney General. He also served as the Secretary of Health and Human Services under Biden, and he's now a candidate for California's governor race. He joins me now. It's great to see you. Thank you for being here with me tonight. So Governor Newsom's press office just announced on social media, I'm sure you've just heard, he's going to outline the redistricting plans during a press conference tomorrow. What are you going to be listening and looking for? And do you think the voters in California, who have certainly more of a say in this upcoming process than the voters in Texas have had, do you think they're really prepared to do all of this?
So first, thanks for having me. But secondly, absolutely, I think California will stand up because we have no choice. If someone is trying to diminish your ability to get back all the taxpayer dollars that California sends to the federal treasury. And by the way, no state in the nation sends more money to the federal treasury than does California. And all of a sudden, to have someone try to rig the system and deny California its fair share of power and votes, to let someone try to steal your votes and steal your voice in Congress, you got to fight back. And legally, we can. And politically, we must. And the way the governor and the state legislators in California are going to do this is they're going to fight fire with fire, and we'll redraw maps in California to essentially make sure that if Texas tries to rig the system, we're ready to fight back.
So just after President Trump announced that troops were going to be heading to the Capitol, to Washington, D.C., a federal judge in California has been hearing what's this multi-day trial, essentially, and going to be considering the legality of what we all saw unfold in your state, the military arriving there, and some have argued basically doing civilian law enforcement on the ground there. What are you looking for in that trial? What are the stakes here in California as we also watch this in D.C.?
Antonio, the stakes are really high because you have federal intrusion the way the founders of our nation wanted to resist. They wanted to give states the rights to do the state's activities, whether it is educating, whether it is providing health care, or whether it is doing public safety. Public safety, community policing, that is left for the states under the U.S. Constitution to undertake, not for the federal government. And therefore, the federal government does not have a right to send troops, the National Guard, essentially to do public safety work. That's for us to do. And the minute the federal government tries to step over that line, we can stop them in court. And that's why we are in court. I had to do this when I was the Attorney General in California. I ended up suing Donald Trump about more than 120 times because he was always arbitrarily trying to take actions he couldn't. And most of those cases, we were winning. So it's going to take a while because democracy isn't fast. Dictatorships get to move quickly, but democracies don't. And we try to use the rules to make sure we win. And so it takes a little longer, but we will get there. We just have to do this the right way, because what we don't want to do is teach our kids that by cheating, you get ahead. We want them to understand that cheaters ultimately get their due.
I want to ask you about something from a little earlier in your career. At one point, you were a lawyer who who worked with people struggling with mental illness and mental health challenges. Advocates are very concerned about what's about to happen in Washington, D.C. as this administration pushes to force homeless people out of the city. It seems they don't seem to care almost where they end up. It could be jail, it could be shelters, or wherever else. And as someone who has experience working with vulnerable populations who are at potential legal risk, what are you worried we could see unfold here? And what could people do to help?
Well, two things are very obvious. The first, which is it should impact and concern every taxpayer around the country, not just in D.C., is that the president is misusing so much money to put troops on the ground in D.C. to do the work that our police officers in Washington, D.C. could do and could do much better and further if they had the resources that Donald Trump is wasting sending National Guard and the military into Washington, D.C. What a waste of resources to have people who have been trained to kill do police work instead of having the police who would love to have those resources. The second thing is that you don't get rid of homelessness just by trying to get them out of sight. And unfortunately, and I know this from my work as Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, mental health services are underfunded and under-resourced throughout the country. Simply to deny that they exist, especially among the homeless population, is to just ignore the problem. And what he's trying to do is sweep it under the rug. It won't be swept under the rug. And it's a very expensive sweep that he's trying to do. So this is just the worst way to do policy. But what it does do, by the way, is it distracts from what's going on in Donald Trump's world, which is failure to get anything done, failure to contain housing prices, grocery prices. And so the affordability crisis continues to grow under Donald Trump. But he can distract you if he's out there conducting ICE raids. He can distract you if he's sending National Guard into Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, the problems are mounting on Donald Trump. He's violating all his promises. This is the way you do it if you don't have a real solution ready to put out there for the public. And that's what we see with Donald Trump. But ultimately, we get to him because cheaters ultimately meet their maker.